Guys, we have only got 2 weekends left of Championship football, and this is technically the last Saturday we'll get of Championship football for the season, as the final round of fixtures are all taking place on the bank holiday Monday. So we have to make the most of this upcoming weekend in the Championship, but as always, there are some absolutely fascinating matchups to come. Now, it is a little bit annoying as I am having to record and put this video out before the Rotherham versus Cardiff game has taken place. Obviously, that's going on tonight. But with that being said, we've still got some cracking fixtures to come up this weekend, which I want to hear your thoughts on down below. And without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out at Bloomfield Road for the Friday fixture between Blackpool and Millwall. Now, if Blackpool won any hopes of putting in a late survival bid, as unlikely as it is, I think they have to win their final 2 matches. Nothing short of that, I think, would keep them up. It's an interesting game because Millwall haven't been great recently. They've lost back-to-back matches, both against sides who the vast majority of us expected them to beat. A home game against Birmingham and that away game against Wigan. And because of their record against sides lower down in the table, it does make me a little bit cautious coming into predicting this game. The energy levels just haven't been the same with Millwall recently, and certainly their levels of hitting the back of the net and how prolific they've been in the final third. Just 3 goals Millwall have scored now in their last 7 matches, and for however bad Blackpool have been throughout this entire season, it does feel like the arrival of Dobby towards the end of the season has given that whole squad a little bit of a lift, and some other players coming into the frame who were a little bit on the fringes before, giving them an extra dynamic. Certainly in these last few matches, it does feel like around Bloomfield Road, despite the impending relegation, there is a bit of a better feeling and a more connected feeling than there was under McCarthy. So both teams really need to be winning for this one. The potential positive for Millwall playing on the Friday is they do have the potential to put pressure on the rest of the playoff chasers if they do win this match, but with the way they've been going recently, I'm not sure if they do or not. Score prediction here, I'm going to go for an unhelpful 1-1 draw between those two, which helps out no one. Next then to a really interesting game at Ashton Gate for Bristol City against Burnley. Congratulations to Burnley, they managed to wrap up the league title in style away at Ewood Park. Manuel Benson with a fantastic strike from the edge of the box to win that game. What was interesting was I don't think that was Burnley at their vintage best. Blackburn actually had and put them into some quite uncomfortable positions throughout that one, but managed to grind out the result in the end. But what variation of Burnley will we get in this game? To be honest, I think that result against QPR was a little bit of a bit of a false narrative maybe because of how many chances and possession and stuff like that Burnley had actually had in that game. But prior to that QPR performance, there has been a definite drop-off in the overall Burnley performances and the way they've been playing. And it's important to remember that this is Bristol City's last home game of the season, the last chance they'll get to play in front of the Ashton Gate crowd. They'll want to leave things on a positive note this season. It's also worth considering that Bristol City are on the longest unbeaten run in home matches in the Championship right now. They've not lost in their last 9 home matches at Ashton Gate. That's well worth considering. I'm sure the Burnley players have been on the beers after that the league title was sealed up. So for a score prediction here, I actually think Bristol City might pull off something. I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City in that game and just say that Burnley may have taken their eye off the ball after sealing up promotion and now the title. It's a huge game next up between Coventry and Birmingham. A win would put Coventry with maybe 1 foot into the playoff door going into the final game week of the season. They're in a fantastic position at the moment, 5th in the Championship, but with 2 massive games to come, and this will be the time where whether or not we'll see if the pressure does get to this group of players. What is worth remembering, despite Birmingham not having anything to play for at this stage of the season, in this month alone they've already got wins against promotion chasers like Blackburn and Millwall, both 1-0 in those fixtures, and we can't rule out Birmingham from a similar sort of scenario in this game. They gave Sunderland quite a scare as well in that game, albeit didn't get the result they wanted to. I do think this one will be a lot more nervy and maybe closer than a few people might give it credit for. I anticipate a lot of nerves. I anticipate the atmosphere to be brilliant around Coventry though. I'm just going to go with my head and say that Coventry get it over the line based on the quality in their squad at the moment, but something in the back of my mind tells me there's another upset to come in this playoff race. With that being said, I'm I'm going to go 1-0 Coventry. Next then to Hull up against Swansea. Swansea know that they'll need to win their final 2 matches to stand any sort of chance of getting into the top 6, and even then I think they would still fall short because of the points that other sides would accumulate, but they've at least put themselves in the conversation and made these final few game weeks of the season a little bit interesting for them. This one won't be a formality though. Despite Swansea being on a great run at the moment, 7 unbeaten in the Championship, Hull will be a firm test standing in their way. They've been on a decent run, especially at home recently. Don't tend to give up that many opportunities to the opposition either, and it is sort of the attacking flair of this Swansea side who put 4 goals past Preston and 3 goals past Norwich with relative ease up against a really good regimented back line. And it is 2 of my favourite up-and-coming managers going head-to-head with each other in Liam Rossini up against Russell Martin. Wouldn't be surprised at a draw, but because of the momentum Swansea have at the moment and to make things interesting for them on the final day, I say they'll just sneak a 2-1 away victory, but that'll be a tough test to get past. After that, we head to Reading up against Wigan, arguably the biggest game we've got coming up in the Championship this weekend because of the consequences it could have for each side. Reading know that nothing less than a win will do for them in this game and the context of their season, and Wigan also very much in the same boat. You know, this could be the weekend where they are relegated to League One if they don't pull off a result in this game. Credit to Wigan for even taking it this far. They looked dead and buried a few months ago, but obviously that battling win against Millwall showcased that they're not going to go down without a fight, and that's exactly what Reading don't want at the moment. Their last 2 games have set up this relegation battle almost perfectly, with this one against Wigan at home, followed by a final day encounter against Huddersfield, which will be a relegation showdown. From a Reading perspective, they know that nothing less than a win will do for them in this game. They can't be worrying about other results elsewhere. They know they need to really pick up 6 points from these remaining 2 fixtures, and stringing together back-to-back wins just isn't something that Reading have been doing very often this season. More than ever, this group of players at Reading needs to come together as a collective right now, get behind the message that Hunt's sending out, but is it a little bit too little too late? Are we sort of along those lines? A few core players within that Reading dressing room have been in a similar situation in terms of fighting relegation, you know, really going down to the wire, and in previous seasons they have managed to get over the line, and whether or not someone like a Lucas João can go ahead and provide some quality in this match, I'm really struggling to call this one, I have to be honest, because I could see so many possibilities to make it interesting going into the final day for Reading. I think they may just scrape a result here, but I'm not confident in saying that. Both teams have to go for it. The game I'm expecting to open up a little bit because of that, and just with Reading having a little bit more perhaps in the final third, I'm going to go for a tight 1-0 Reading home victory, which will make things interesting going into the last day, but would relegate Wigan in the process. After that, for Sheffield United up against Preston, and a big congratulations is in order for the Blades. I was secretly hoping that they would get over the line in midweek against West Brom, as it means that they've ultimately got nothing to play for the remainder of the season. And heading into this one, my side Preston still has it all to go ahead and do. We did see an obvious drop-off in Burnley after they got over the line. I think it's only natural that goes ahead and happens, and particularly for a side like Sheffield United, where the title is no longer attainable, they literally are fixed in the position they will finish in no matter what happens in their final 3 games of the season. Obviously still got that one in midweek to come against Huddersfield as well. With that being said, the pressure being off that side, it could be a little bit of a promotion party within Bramall Lane, and we'll find out fairly swiftly into this game whether or not those players have been on the beers or not, and they are a little bit sluggish. From a Preston perspective, what worries me is our record against top 6 sides this season has been so poor. I'm hopeful that we can pull something out of the bag, because if we want to stand any chance of, you know, getting into the top 6 come the end of the season, however slim those chances are at the moment, we need to win our final 2 matches. So just to keep that hope alive, I'll go 2-1 Preston in this game, but I'm not massively confident in that. Next then to Stoke up against QPR. That win away at Burnley has given QPR a massive buffer, and all their fans have collectively taken a massive sigh of relief. It had to be a battling performance in the end, and it is worth noting how many chances Burnley actually crafted out in that game, but That's the only way I think teams were ever going to get a result away at Turf Moor this season, and credit to Ainsworth for going ahead and getting his players really up for that game. This one is a tricky one to call because QPR, can we bank on them putting in a similar spirited performance in this game? It is worth remembering that the last time they won a match in the Championship, 1-0 against Watford, they followed it up with a dismal showing against Blackpool where they shipped 6 goals, so whether or not we'll see a repeat of that, QPR have been that mad of a club this season that I wouldn't rule it out of the realms of possibility. In terms of Stoke, their season has just been dwindling out recently, 5 without a win now, but this will be the last chance they get to play in front of their fans, and they'll want to leave them with a little bit more of something to go off heading into next season. And for that reason, maybe I could see Stoke turning it on one last time this season. Score prediction there, I'm going 2-1 Stoke. Still not completely on the train that QPR are that reliable after the Burnley game. Next up then to Sunderland up against Watford, and what a position Sunderland put themselves in with that win last time out against West Brom. And going into this game against Watford, I actually think it's a fairly favourable fixture to have right now, especially at home and with how inconsistent this Watford side have been on the road recently. Obviously, in the last few weeks, Watford's hopes of the top 6 have been blown, so they're not playing for anything right now. 8 without a win on the road for Watford as well, which is also worth taking into consideration. But pressure can do strange things to sides, and as we've seen, the race to the top 6 this season has been done at a real snail's pace, especially over this last month or so, with any of the sides really failing to string together a series of results. However, with that being said, Sunderland are the stronger outfit right now. I see them having more in the final third about them, and I think they should win this match. So however unpredictable the Championship can be, I'm going 2-0 Sunderland in that one, which will be a massive booster going into the final weekend. After that, to the Hawthorns for West Brom up against Norwich. West Brom in a similar boat to my side, North End, on 63 points at the moment. If they want to stand any chance of getting into the top 6 come the end of the season, they need to win their final 2 matches. But over their last couple of matches, they've really seen those top 6 aspirations sort of go up in smoke. Neither the result against either Sunderland or Sheffield United, ended up losing both those matches, and it is difficult to see them making it from this point. I do see them getting the result in this game, but then heading into a final day against Swansea, who have been in form at the moment, I'm not sure I see them winning both matches. From a Norwich perspective, in a similar way to West Brom actually, they've sort of seen themselves implode over these last few weeks. That defeat against Swansea last time out was a really humbling one for them. For a score prediction in this one, I actually see West Brom as the more likely side to bounce back. Going to go 2-1 in that game, but I'm still not sure it'll be enough for a top 6 charge. Next then we go to Cardiff up against Huddersfield. Now this is a really weird prediction to make right now because Huddersfield weren't in action in the previous game week, because that game that they would have played against Sheffield United, the Blades were in action in the FA Cup. So they still have a game in hand to play, which will be played in the next midweek bracket before we get to the final weekend of the Championships. They still have that game against Sheffield United in hand to play, which could still prove to be a massive booster in how the relegation zone shapes out, and whether or not, Sheffield United will do Neil Warnock a favour in that fixture. It's also a difficult one to do because we're recording this before the Cardiff fixture against Rotherham has taken place, so the context of what Cardiff need in this game in terms of a result is also really tricky to take into consideration. And for that being the case, I think I'm going to have to sit on the fence between these two and go for a 1-1 draw in there. After that, for Rotherham against Middlesbrough, once again a difficult prediction to make right now, having not known the context of what's about to happen in that game unfolding between Rotherham and Cardiff, and whether or not the Millers need a result or not in this game. What's interesting is we may see Middlesbrough slightly taking their foot off the gas in these next couple of matches, because 4th spot is pretty much guaranteed for them now. No sides below them can catch up to them, and for Middlesbrough to overtake Luton in the league, Luton would pretty much need to lose their final couple of matches. So Middlesbrough have got that 4th spot pretty much guaranteed after they lost that game away at Kenilworth Road. To be fair, it was a good performance that Middlesbrough put in that game. I thought we did say Carrick shuffling the squad around a little bit, making some changes, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a similar occurrence in in these final couple of matches, and if we will see some of those big stars rested up and looking to get, you know, in proper fighting condition for the playoffs to come. And this is the part of the season where some silly results are thrown up. So for a prediction here, I actually see the Millers getting something, and I'm actually going to say 2-1 Rotherham in that game. Why not? Let's throw some upsets in there. And then finishing things off with Blackburn up against Luton. Blackburn's end to the season is absolutely fascinating. This one against Luton, followed by a final day away at Millwall. Now, if you're a Blackburn fan, I mean, you've got to be hating life right now to have seen your closest and most bitter rivals sealing up the league title at your stadium. But for whatever condolence this may be to Blackburn, I actually thought it was their best performance in quite some time in that game. They really went toe-to-toe with Burnley in that one, pressed them into some good areas, ultimately just didn't have that quality though in the final third, and that's been a real issue with them in recent weeks. And with how this Luton side has just been grinding out results recently in this unbeaten run, even when they're not at their best, they can still hurt you. You know they're going to be up for a game like this as well. And for a prediction, I'll settle on a draw because I do think that Blackburn gave it their all against Burnley, and if they go for a similar game plan in this one, I can see them snatching something, but I just don't see Luton losing. Score prediction, 1-1 I'm saying between those two. But guys, there we have it. There are my week 45 championship score predictions. Want to hear from you in the comments down below. How do you see all of this weekend's action unfolding? Do let me know. Apart from that though guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, do leave a like and stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. And I'll see you all in the next one.